All right, so moving on to the main event here, I just wanted to cover a little bit about this. We won't actually be going over this slide by slide in terms of the self-care presentation because I wanted it, everybody has their own individual ways of basically making this happen for yourself. But we wanted to go over some of the principles. So you can click through this on your own. I'm going to share it as well in PDF format via email with all the attendees so that you have this in your email in case you want to look at it. There are a number of good links here as well as some basic principles that we often share with our clients, but sometimes in times of panic and stress and that, sometimes it's easy to forget some of these things. So it's useful to find out about what other people are doing for self-care. So I'm just clicking through the slides right now to give you an idea of what they're all about. You're welcome to check that out during the presentation or afterwards. Like I said, I'm going to send these to you as well. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Jenna and Stephanie, and they can go over a little bit about what they have found works for them in terms of mental health professionals. So Jenna, did you want to start?
Sure. Is it okay? Would you prefer that I use the video or is audio okay?
Audio is just fine. Given that we might be working on limited bandwidth, that would be great, just audio.
Okay. So just in terms of, how mental health providers can maintain their own mental health, which is essentially why we're all here, just a couple things that I think are important to note. I think the fact that we're all sitting on this call together and doing this kind of peer support, I think this is some of the ways in which we can help to maintain our mental health. So we're essentially creating a space, like a safe space to openly talk about, whatever stresses or frustrations or anxieties or fears that we're holding. But also it's important to have a space where we can celebrate the victories that we're having and the ways in which we're making a difference. So it's just, I think, having a space where we can talk about the difficulties and the things that are going well can, really help to provide validation and normalization for us and what we're thinking and what we're feeling, and will allow us to essentially feel a sense of connectedness and know that we're not alone in this journey together. So I think, in terms of peer support, I think that's one of the ways that we can help each other, just, having a space where we can have these conversations. So I think that's kind of my first piece. As you go through the slides, which was really well put together, Stephanie. It's a good reminder about, vicarious trauma and compassion fatigue and what that looks and feels like. And I believe on the third slide, it talks about, just self-monitoring and just kind of checking in with ourselves. And I think during a time like this is very important too, not just emotionally, but I think physically as well, because I think a lot of the times we hold our emotions in our bodies, so we may not be, mentally aware of what it is that we're feeling, but I think our bodies are really telling of what it is that we're feeling. So I think it's important. This is a good time to practice some of those strategies of, body scans or deep breathing or, just giving ourselves a space to release some of what we might be holding. Because really, when we're working with clients, we're holding a lot of their stuff. I don't know if anyone's ever left a session and have realized after some time that their shoulders were up to their ears because they were just holding so much for the client. So again, just a good space right now to kind of just check in with yourself, see how you're doing. If you need to take a day, one thing I've learned in working in social work is social workers are great, or mental health professionals in general are a great team to have on your side. Your schedule will be taken care of. Your clients will be taken care of. Even the clients that you work with, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they have the capacity, the strategies, the resources to manage in your absence. So just, if you check in with yourself and decide you need a day, I think that's that's okay. And I think sometimes we need to hear that it's okay to do that. I want to also touch on the physical distancing versus social distancing aspect. I think that we really need to be intentional about how we speak to our clients about what distancing means during this time, for them and really for us too, right? So we want to encourage and compliment, people who are engaging in proper physical distancing and hygienic practices, but we also want to encourage creative ways to maintain connections with others. And that goes for ourselves. We all know that social connections help us reduce stress. It reduces the risk of loneliness. It will help us increase our self-esteem. It fosters resilience. It can provide validation and emotional support especially during really tough times. So just finding creative ways to keep those connections is so important. I mean, again, even when we think about practicing individuals, one of the things we do is we always look to see what their connections are like, right? Who is their family? Are they connected with the CAF community? Are they connected with the civilian community? Are they spiritual, right? So just like we would do that with our clients, we really need to check in with ourselves. Where can we get those connections? Where might there be gaps, and how can we fill those gaps, right? To, again, ensure that we're doing the things that we can do to reduce our stress, foster our resilience, maintain our connections with others. So, and I just have one final thought. Again, so they put up they put up a really great little slide. It's 50 ways of self-care. And I 100% agree that we don't always practice what we preach. I have said on more than one occasion, I'm feeling a certain way. I know what I need to do. I tell people and teach people the strategies on what to do, but I just can't seem to bring myself to do it. But I think, again, we're just so busy holding together for other people and meeting their needs that sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves. And kind of like the slide says, where you have to put your oxygen mask on before you can help other people, right? We need to make sure that we're okay before we're sure that we're effectively helping other individuals as well. So there's some really great strategies that are listed there. One I use is self-care bingo. You can Google it. There's lots of them out there, and it's just like a fun and intentional way of, checking something off of your list of, yes, I did this today, and hey, you might get a bingo if you go through it. So that's something that I've done just to say, okay, I'm actually doing things to take care of myself right now, and it's those small victories sometimes during times like these that I think we need. So that's going to be my piece.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Jenna.
You're welcome.
And Stephanie, did you have any observations you'd like to share?
Yeah, I was on a call, so I only heard, after Jenna had started, so I apologize if I am repeating a couple of things. But as, a mental health counselor and as a social worker, I think it's important, one, to be honest about your workload. When you are a full team, it's good to kind of just, if you're noticing that a colleague is kind of struggling a bit more, to kind of balance out that workload in a way that the team just supports each other. So what's good about that too is debriefing with your team how you're doing, and getting to that point where it's comfortable with your colleagues to just kind of debrief on that workload stress, especially, given that we do carry on vicarious stress as well. And just attaching onto that is to know your triggers. So this is on a continual basis and not just also it's very important during COVID-19 because I'll just use personal examples. I do have a couple triggers when it comes to some discussions about COVID-19 where I can feel my heart starting to race, and it's good to check in with yourself in the morning and maybe journal about these triggers and see what is it about this getting to me, what's a mantra I can give myself so that when it does come up with a client, that I'm able to care for myself before it comes up with a client to then care for the client. And so yeah, so just kind of acknowledging and knowing your triggers, what bothers you, so that you can address it. Again, put your mask on first, address that with yourself, so that you're fit enough to support clients and strong enough to support clients. And this goes on in a continual basis, right? Like as people in the mental health and social work field, we never know from one day to another what's going to happen, what kind of situations are going to be presented to us. So on a continual basis, it's good to reach out to professionals, even if they have the same profession as us. I once told a personal therapist of mine, that it was weird because I, counsel clients and it's weird for me to be a client. And she mentioned, if you break your leg, if a doctor breaks his leg, another doctor has to treat the leg. So in that way, we often, I think Jenna touched on it, don't notice the need for ourselves to seek help, where, because of stuff like personal stresses, also vicarious and compassion stress, we carry a huge load of trying to be there for a lot of people, which, instinctually people in our field are notorious for putting everyone else in front of them, which is why we are in the field we are in. We love helping people. But if you want to think of it in a very extreme way, it's hard to help people when we're not at our best selves. Stefan, do you have anything you want to add?
No, you pretty much cover everything. I think that the most important thing right now is to take care of ourselves, and by doing small stuff, it can be just go take a walk or just take more breaks during the day, or just when you're coming home, vent a little 10 minutes about your day, and after just put your day behind you. I think it's really important to find what is helping you. It's different for everyone, so it's kind of hard to give advice on this, but just focus on what makes you feel better.
So that's because some things I wanted to touch base on, Jenna's mentioned, which was amazing. Does anyone else want the floor to mention a couple things that has helped them out, personal examples? I'll give a personal example of mine. We had a couple of items that were set that are brain teasers or kind of stuff like that, and I kind of just have that object by my desk. It looks like a little lava lamp or something, and I kind of find it soothes me between calls. And I do love to listen to music while I work, so that's been something that's truly been helping me out. And between then, when it's kind of I need to vent a little, I do kind of debrief with my colleagues on stuff that's stressing me out, and then to discuss solutions. And so that debrief portion and that soothing portion with my music is kind of a good balance of how I both, vent a little bit, but then also try to calm my nerves. Does anyone else have examples of self-care?
So for those of you with lots of background noise who may not want to unmute your mic, feel free to write in the chat as well. Some ideas that seem to work well for you, or that you've heard work well for your peers. Okay, so Daniel, it looks like your hand might be up. Did you want to ask a question?
No, I was just going to take myself off mute and just kind of say what my wife and I have been doing here at home. We're both,
sure.
With both of us being home and having two little ones, we're just getting outside as much as we can. We're trying to do more things around the house. We're both avid readers, so we're doing a lot more reading and journaling as well. And I know it's going to be just this reiterated thing of checking in with ourselves, making sure that we're being honest and realistic, and having other people that we can kind of be accountable to. So my wife is able to kind of double check in with me and say, okay, are you feeling all right? Are you getting a little too cooped up? Do you want to be out doing more things? How can we kind of do more things together? And I do the same thing with her. If I see that she's getting more stressed out because I'm trying to do more work from home, she's on mat leave, so she really doesn't have any work to do other than, the main thing, which is our 2 little ones, keeping them going. So again, having that kind of accountability partner, whether it's our colleagues, which has already been mentioned, or even our spouses, other family members, is a very important thing to do right now.
Okay, that's a great idea. So it's almost like you put it perfectly, accountability partner or some sort of buddy system, whether or not it's a loved one or a colleague, a peer. Okay, we've got a few people who have written in the chat there, going outside and getting away from the physical workspace. We've often noticed this in military family services as well, that it's very easy when you're setting up your own workspace at home and you're trying to self-isolate to get stuck in front of the computer. And it's it's less intuitive to get up and get away and build in those breaks where you can find yourself, all of a sudden you get up and 3 hours have passed without taking a break. So just setting those reminders for yourself and get away from the workspace. Another person, Sarah, mentioned a group of friends and I video chat while going on treadmills. That's really cool. That's me talking. That's really cool. makes the exercising more fun and gives a chance to catch up. I totally agree. Exercising by yourself is super boring and tedious, but with other people, that is a great idea. Any other ideas that you guys have come across that you've found work really well for you? Okay, so Andrea mentioned that this is a message that I found helpful that said, hang on a sec, you are not working from home, you are at your home in a crisis trying to work. So that's great. It's just a way of reframing it such that we properly situate this in the fact that in a crisis you're at home and you're trying to work. So trying to reframe it for yourself. Brittany mentioned, I'm working from home with a toddler, so I have a very rough schedule that includes blocks of time for work and blocks of time for outside play or activities for her to balance the two. All right. Are there, now just a question while you guys are writing down any other ideas that you might want to share with folks on the line here. And by the way, this is being, like I mentioned before, this is being recorded so we can share it with our colleagues who weren't able to make it today. Are there particular times of the week that you guys are discovering are more stressful than others? Because we've noticed certain things in Family Information Line, but I wanted to put that question out to you guys in terms of, do you find it more at the beginning of the week, near the end of the week? Are there differences?
Jonathan?
Yeah.
Hey, it's Evelyn in Thunder Bay.
Okay.
I'm just on the phone only because I couldn't hook up. But
okay, no problem.
I'm treating it as work.
Yep, absolutely.
Get up, but I actually can get dressed a little bit later, so I don't have to drive to work.
Yep.
Still getting up, still washing my face, I'm trying to fix my hair. Didn't fix my hair yesterday, right? Yep. Still doing all that, but I'm also taking lunch at my lunch hour, except for today.
Okay.
So I'm working my hours, and yesterday, Monday, was slower, but I just have my regular work to do, and I'm still just doing that. So I'm just carrying on, right? And I'm also a fitness instructor, and have been for many years. So I've been out in the evenings, either on the treadmill when it's cold or just in my neighborhood going around the street. So. Yeah. Because fitness has stopped too, right? So, but yeah. But I have goals.
Yeah, and we've got a few folks who are saying. So we've got Karina who mentioned the beginning of the week is harder because there isn't the physical change of going into the office to start the week. But then another individual, Caitlin, finds that Tuesday and Wednesday has been hard. It's interesting because sometimes we find a family information line Monday, like you said, can be quite tricky after coming in. After having spent the weekend. On the other hand, sometimes you feel a little bit rejuvenated by the weekend, and so Monday seems a little bit easier, and then by Friday you feel kind of worn down a little bit. And we're noticing that in terms of our calls from the families, that we tend to get a spike in calls closer to the end of the week when people tend to be more worn down and possibly just they feel super saturated by the negative social media and the news going on. Any other tips or tricks or possibly really cool YouTube channel, Pinterest elements that you guys have come across that you would suggest to colleagues who are trying to maintain a balance during this time?
Hi, it's Andrea from Ottawa.
Hi, Andrea.
You can hear me? Hi.
Yep.
The one thing that I've been doing, I have 5 kids and who live in multiple houses, and so we've been pretty busy kind of juggling all that. So we've been doing fancy family dinners with a dance party after, and
wow.
It's really fun to get all dressed up and wear ties and suits and then go downstairs and eat spaghetti meatballs. So that's been pretty hilarious, and we took a lot of pictures of that. So that's something we've been doing. It's a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Put on our fanciest dresses that we haven't worn in a long time. So, yeah, that's my thought.
That is such a cool idea. I love that. That's great. I'm pretty sure I have a tuxedo somewhere in the closet there that I could definitely use for one of those spaghetti dinners. That's awesome.
Hi, Jonathan. This is Tamara from Comox.
Yeah.
So sorry to kind of redirect this, but just a quick question. Kara Lee had mentioned on our Flow website that we were going to be talking a little bit about MFS looking at platforms that are virtual platforms.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering about that. I'm also wondering if anyone can kind of speak to productivity pressure. Because, and again, I find it super challenging with a little kiddo, navigating, meeting expectations, doing a 37.5-hour work, and having a child that doesn't have care, and a partner who's considered essential as a military member. And my work is actually a valuable part of my sanity. And so kind of any tips around that?
Okay, that's excellent. So, what I'm going to do is I would expect there's a lot of ideas out there that are being used by various MFRCs and various personnel who are trying to maintain this kind of virtual connectivity. I know that as well, MFS is working on some protocols around virtual services, including virtual mental health services and that. Based on the Canadian College of the CCPA there. So that should be coming out in the next week or two. So just to give you a heads up about that. But until then, I encourage anybody, why don't you just email me? I'll be emailing out the presentation after this web exchange here. So just email me back with any ideas that you have, any particular virtual platforms that you've come across that work really well. For you, as well as how to achieve that balance. Another thing as well, I noticed that was coming up from the field from people I've spoken to is that just be sure to working from home can be pretty tricky. So be sure to let clients know at the beginning of the call if you are doing some sort of virtual emotional support or mental health. Just let them know that you may be interrupted at some point by a toddler, because I know that some people have been rudely interrupted by their children or other people walking into the frame. So the more that you can give the heads up to the clients about that, at least from what I hear from the field, the better it goes over, of course, during the session. So just to give them a heads up about that. Carolyn wrote, I would really appreciate feedback on virtual platforms being supported by MFS, as my clients are eager to reconnect visually. We're currently researching Doxy.me, M-E. So that's great. So I'll let you guys know as soon as I hear something back about that. I know that Linda Manser is leading the charge on that, and we've got a number of people working on it. So probably in the next week or so, we should be able to give you an update on that. And if it's sooner, I'll send out an email to everyone on this luncheon mode. So it looks like that's all we had time for today, but I just wanted to actually check now. You guys remember the megaphone on your right gives you a chance to say yes or no to a question. If we were to offer other sessions like this, just as a way to check in with your peers and your colleagues and see how everybody's doing and share new ideas, if you would be interested in such a thing being set up on a regular basis, then can you just give me a check mark just to give me an idea whether or not it's useful to set more of these up. And that way we can just set them up as we go, and that way you don't have to worry about if you can't make one, then you'll make the next one, and that sort of thing. It's just a little less stress, but a little bit more connectivity with your peers and colleagues across the country, as well as around the world, who are having to deal with this. So thanks very much. It looks like a number of people are interested in that, so I'll communicate about that in terms of the next one that we're going to hold. Thanks very much to everyone for joining us today and for making it work with your various technologies, and you'll be hearing from me soon. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.